This nigga's shirt's telling me to report him.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Adobe Live. I'm your host today, this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are, Flynn Tracy, and I'm here with Martina Martian. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How is everybody?
Yes. Hey, everybody in chat. Malik, Johanna, thanks for joining us. Festus in the house. So good to see you. Callisto, Elizabeth. Elizabeth said, as we're waiting to get started, she loves animated GIFs. So this is going to be a fun talk. Yes, it's good.
Yay.
It's good that you like GIFs because we are going to be talking a lot about GIFs today, and illustration and animation and all sorts of fun things. But for those who might not be familiar with your work, Martina, maybe you could give us a snapshot at who you are, because online you're in the UK. You're an artist, you've got GIFs all over the world, you've got illustrations on like every platform that we all use every day. So maybe you could give us a bit of an insight.
Yeah, that's true. Primarily, I just call myself an artist because I just create in every possible medium. So I do like mainly illustration and a bit of writing, and then I kind of bring that to life through like augmented reality, through GIFs, through animation, through installations, through everything I can think of. But yeah, definitely my work is mainly about like positive messages and sharing my thoughts and ideas with the world. And yeah.
Yeah, there's like a lot of positive affirmations. I mean, it's quite funny to me. Every now and then I'll see somebody like in my feed using one of your GIFs, which is always fun to see, like seeing the GIFs out in the wild. But what got you to start using GIFs in the first place? Or creating GIFs, I should say.
I was already doing illustration. And so I think for a lot of illustrators, like making some GIFs or adding an element of animation is just like a natural next step. And then, yeah, like people started using GIFs on their Instagram stories, and that became like a thing. And that was only really 2 years ago. Like we forget, but like we weren't really using them in our everyday life before that. And even though they've been around since like the 90s, I feel like they had their like big boom as stickers on social media. So yeah. And then naturally, I mean, I just want people to use my work as much as possible. And I'm trying to like get myself on everything. So I just started making GIFs, and then kind of, yeah, I don't know, it blew up from there. Now I've got like, I don't know, 8 billion views or something of my GIFs online, which is crazy.
Where do you see that metric? Is that like on Giphy or something like that?
Yeah, it's on Giphy. You can go on there actually.
Should we check it out?
And that's where all my GIFs. Yeah, let's do it.
So I've actually got some of your work here. You can tell me where to go. I've got like so many touch points here. This is your Behance. So
okay, I see your links coming up. Yes. You can go to Giphy.com. That's like the most recent link I think I sent you.
Yeah.
That one. Yes. There we go. So yeah, you can see 9 billion. Okay. Yeah. Which is just like, I can't actually wrap my head around that number. It's a bit like stupidly large.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That is crazy. So that's the amount of uses that these GIFs have had, like your profile.
Yeah, I think it's the amount of times they've been seen around the world. So like I've got like celebrities using my GIFs and stuff, so they get a lot of reach. Yeah, that is fun. I'm trying to think the most famous person recently to use it. I don't know. Different people. Kendall Jenner used it once. That was cool. I was like, great. Kardashian's done it. I've made it, like using my sticker on her story.
That's awesome. You don't get $1 for every time someone uses a GIF or anything, do you? Am I
Absolutely not. I wish. I wouldn't be here. I would be like off on some private island.
That's awesome. But we also have some of your other work here as well. Did you want to take us through any of this before we get started?
Yeah, sure. This is probably like my biggest GIF project. So these are the ones that I made for Nike last year. That was a really cool project. So yeah, it was kind of tying in with the tennis events that we're on, and they just asked me to create a series of positive gifs, and including the one that says "Just do it," like Nike slogan, and
That's pretty cool.
illustrating a few pieces from the tennis collection. And yeah, it was pretty crazy. Like I just didn't expect. I don't know. Every single commission and job I get, I'm like, I can't believe this is my job. Like,
Yeah, it's pretty
I
sweet.
illustrated some. It's a very niche thing to be like, yeah, I've done work with Nike. I illustrated animated gifs, social media. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting job title. So where did they use these gifts? Like, this is something that they had around that they wanted. So they wanted to commission an artist that to create gifts that people could use on social media around a physical event. Is that how it is? Is that how it works?
No, I think it was tying part of like a campaign they had at that moment, which was a lot about their female tennis stars and like empowering things. So that's like a quote from one of the tennis stars.
Right.
And they obviously wanted to collaborate with like a female illustrator who is, and my work is all about positivity and empowerment. So because that tied in so well with the campaign, it was just like the perfect collaboration.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. Well, we've got quite a lot to show today. So I'm going to do my very best at showing everything. So we have pre-recorded these as well because we were on multiple platforms and we're remote as well. So you'll notice that Martina is using Fresco in this case. So I'll leave it to you to kind of take it away. But yeah, we're going to be, you'll explain it.
Yes, I will. Happy to. So this is Adobe Fresco, which is the sort of newest, I think, illustration app from Adobe. And I was with Adobe last year when they were kind of developing it, about to release the app. And it's basically just like the go-to illustration app on iPad, I think. So I use this now like for everything. Before that, I was just using Illustrator and Photoshop. But since they came out with this last year, it's like part of my everyday practice. Because the pencils and like the pens are all just awesome. And also for me, I'm like mainly vector based with my work. So I do a lot of, I don't know if people know about like pixels versus vector, but if you work in vector, it can be scaled to any size. And so
we may have lost Martina for a second there. So our internet connection wasn't super great, which is why we kind of pre-recorded.
They have vector brushes.
Oh, you're back. Great.
Oh, I'm back.
Yeah.
No. Oh my gosh. It's fine. Nothing interesting was said.
Oh no.
But yeah, so this is me sketching out in pencil first, which is a raster pixel brush. But yeah, the great thing about Fresco is that they also have vector brushes, and that's what I like to use because then you can just scale it up and it never pixelates. So yeah, here I'm just sketching out first, and that's a very important part of the process.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you like your end result is going to be vector. So why do you sketch like digitally, with pencil sketch first?
Just like, I mean, it's just easier if you do like a rough sketch first, especially because vectors are so clean, and my work is really like clean and crisp. I'm getting more experimental. I'm getting a bit freer, but generally it looks very like vector based and clean at the end. So I do the messy part first and then go over it and do it perfectly.
Cool.
I wish I could just draw it perfectly the first time, but I don't.
Do you ever hand draw? Do you ever carry a, while you're traveling? Because I know you travel, well, not at the moment, obviously, but travel.
Not right now.
Your natural state of being is a traveler. Do you carry iPad around, or do you take kind of a notepad and pencil, or what's your process when traveling?
I bring everything, but in my day-to-day, like I'll always have a journal of some kind. So long as I have this, I can create. Like this is where all the good ideas go down and all the sketching happens. And then the final step is jumping onto iPad or jumping onto my MacBook. So yeah, usually I'll try to leave that stuff at home, but I'll always have a notebook on me. And I think that like anytime I think I'm going through a creative rut, I've actually just not been using that journal enough and not been sketching every day. Like it's a really important part of the process. Whereas if you just kind of get onto the iPad or like get straight onto the computer, I think it's a bit harder to start. You should have like those rough sketches already in mind. And yeah, but for this one, I mean, I didn't really need to sketch out the ideas in my notebook. Like flowers, it was pretty straightforward.
You've done flowers before.
Yes, done plenty of flowers. So here I'm starting to go in with the vector brush. So as you can see, it's like super, I don't know, full. It's not sketchy at all. It's very clean.
Mm. I should mention as well, feel free to ask us questions as we're going. We have a Q&A timer. I neglected to mention, got a little bit of a break in the middle today to answer some questions, but keep them coming, and we can answer them as we go, or we've got room for a few as well. Meaning of life questions, we call them, in the middle.
Perfect. I'm actually trying to see the comments and I can't, but...
Can you see on Behance? Behance.net/live?
Yeah, I'm just going to refresh it and hopefully it comes up.
Elizabeth saying, I love how your first and last names are anagrams of each other.
Yes, I mean, it's not my real last name. That's kind of why I picked it. Back when I was like starting out on Instagram, I was like, wow, this is so cool. I can switch the last two letters of my name and it will spell something. And then that kind of just stayed as my Instagram name. And then I got, you know, popular off of that name, and now we're here. So
and here we are. Yeah,
pick a good name when you're starting.
We had Bianca Beers on recently. I'm not sure if you know Bianca, but yeah, she was on last week, and a couple of times.
Is that her real last name?
And it's not her real last name either, and it's the same sort of thing. She just started using it, and then people got to know her as that name, and that's just what her internet name is.
That's it, exactly. And then, yeah, it doesn't matter what your name is at the end of the day, but I think I feel weirder using my like legal family name. Like it's nice to kind of have your separate artistic self, as well as like for branding purposes, but also just for like sanity purposes. Like it's nice to just be like, that's my work self, online self, creative self. But then there's also like me that my parents know. Like,
that's interesting to hear you say that, because you put quite a lot of yourself in your work. You were talking before about like Nike coming to you because they know that you're about your positive affirmations, like there's a lot of female empowerment as well with a lot of your, not all of it, but like with a lot of your messaging around that sort of thing. It's clearly why a brand has come to you. So how do you separate the two, or do you separate them?
Well, yeah, I think because my work is really, really personal, I don't really know how to make any other kind of work. It always comes from like a super personal, like even like my generic kind of positive phrases, I can't like as an artist create them unless it's what I need and what I actually like resonate with as well. But yeah, the way I kind of deal with that separation is by just having like an artist name versus my real name, and just making sure that like if as much as I'm giving to Instagram and like the online world and through my art, it's not all of me. And I think everyone is like super multifaceted as a person, and I really don't like people being like, oh, it's your online self versus your real self. It's like they're both you, but just different parts of you being presented in different contexts. So that's my philosophical
I like it.
deep dive.
No, I like it a lot. Anthony was asking,
but I think a lot of people
you go on, we'll get to the question.
I finished my tangent. No, but I do think like if you are an artist, a lot of the time you are in the public eye because you have to like promote yourself. And so a lot of my friends are like big on online, you know, spaces, Instagram, Tumblr, all the other ones. So like you do, because your work, if you're an artist, your work is personal. So like a lot of what you're thinking about is like, oh my God, is this really me? Is this me being authentic? And yeah, it's just like a common thing to think about, I think, when you're creative.
Yeah. There was a question in the chat. Is this on the iPad? Yes. So this, yeah, exactly. This is it. This is a screen recording from an iPad so that we can make today happen. But yeah, this is all done on an iPad.
Yeah.
What iPad do you use? I remember when we were first hanging out, you were using like the smaller version. Do you still use that version because it's small and compact to travel?
No.
Or?
Oh yeah, no, I still have like the smallest size. I'm wondering if it's near me, but yeah, I use the smallest size because my sketchbook is A5, so that's actually like my favorite size, and
Mm.
yeah, I just went for the smallest iPad to kind of I don't know. I don't know if anyone else feels the same, but when it's a huge screen or a huge like piece of paper, it's just like swells too much to work with. I
Yeah.
like small. But yeah, it's the iPad Pro that I'm using.
Yep. Anthony was asking, hi Martina and Flynn, what's the difference between the vector brushes in Fresco as opposed to Illustrator?
Okay. I think I don't know what exactly the difference is. Like they're both vector brushes, but I think there's a different selection. Um, Personally, I only really use the pencil tool when I'm in Illustrator anyway, so I haven't really experimented with the brushes, but on Fresco, I'm having a lot more fun with it.
Yep.
I saw that Janine commented, yeah, that's exactly what I just answered. She said, do you ever draw your line art in Illustrator using the pen tool or shapes, or do you always use a vector brush in Fresco? What are the benefits and cons? So yeah, usually like before I discovered Fresco, before I got an iPad, I just use the pen tool or the pencil tool on Illustrator. It's like, I don't know, it's very controlled and it's easy to use. Um, and then Fresco, you can kind of, there's like more brushes to use. I don't know, I think both are good, but I'm used to using the pen tool and the pencil tool. Like I haven't ever been someone who goes crazy with brushes, so it's just up to you and your workflow and what you prefer.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're seeing a lot of color kind of coming through here. Where do you get your colors from?
Oh yeah. I'm definitely inspired by like color palettes from like the 60s and the 80s, like really bright, sort of kitschy eras in fashion and packaging. So yeah, I'm always kind of going for like a nostalgic palette, and I usually stick to those like five-ish colors. So yeah, I think those five-ish colors are like this sort of lavender purple, this like dusty kind of baby blue, a burnt orange, and then like a really warm sun yellow. But yeah, so I can name them off the top of my head because that's how often I use them. Like, um,
And I remember in a previous stream, quite a long time ago now, we were chatting, and when you were traveling, you would like take photos of things, and then you know, like of a scene or something that really captured you. Like it might be at sunset or sundown or something, and the colors and you know the scene was really great, and you would take a photo just on your phone, and then when you would come back to come back home or wherever home was at the time, and then you would sort of color drop a lot of those colors. Is that right? Could you tell us more about that as well?
Yeah, I mean, so there's this app called Adobe Capture, I think it is, and you can use it to select color themes like from real life. And for me, like I'm always trying to find cool colors when I'm out and about. So yeah, it was really useful to have because you could just like capture on the go, select the colors from the scene, and then it saves as like a color theme for you to use later. Generally, like I'm not creating, I mean, I'm trying to stick to the same kind of color palette all the time because that's like my look and my style, but still good to kind of expand and find inspiration from real locations.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really liked places like Guatemala, like Central America, because they had so many bright colors in the streets and on the like signage. And yeah, I don't know, I didn't feel like in Australia there was that much color, like we were a bit more into grey buildings and brutalism. But yeah, it was really cool to go to other countries and see that they weren't afraid of color. And yeah, it was inspiring.
I really like that. Like, I really like this country because of their color palette.
I love the colors.
That's super great.
Janine says she knows all the hex codes by heart. I don't know the hex codes of my favorite colors, but I can describe them like very poetically. I love them.
And so what are you doing now? So I'm noticing you're selecting like an entire flower and then rotating it.
Oh my gosh, yes. Let's jump back to what I'm actually doing. So what I've done, once I've created the artwork, I then will duplicate it and bring it onto, so as you can see, it's on the right, we've got the same image duplicated onto separate layers. And then on the second layer, I'm going through and I'm slightly rotating each element so that it's kind of like the next frame in the animation.
Right, cool. Yeah, because you are going
so
to
yeah,
animate these next.
exactly. So I think it's good to keep in mind kind of what you want to do as to animate it later. And for me, I wanted all the flowers to spin, so I'm just going through and just like rotating them like 90 degrees from the original position, and then I'll copy that layer, paste it, and then rotate each element 90 degrees, and then copy that layer. So yeah, I'm just creating each individual frame for the animation. But yeah, I really like this technique just because it's very, very easy, and you don't have to know After Effects. You don't have to be like a pro animator. A lot of the time, I think people just want to add a little bit of animation to their illustrations or just like play with a new element. And this is just a really simple way of doing it.
Yeah, it's
just
amazing what a little
frame.
bit of movement, like a little bit of animation can do. Like even
Exactly.
Festus was mentioning that the left-hand panel is hypnotic. Well done. Which I'm hoping you're referring to the GIF, the Dream Big GIF up the top, because that took us 10 minutes this morning to get into the scene. High priority.
And it was worth it.
Yeah. Just as we were setting everything up, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I can throw GIFs in the multi-view here, and Martina's will be perfect because they're not like super distracting. They are subtle, and the colors aren't, it's not like it's not like gonna be too intense.
Well, it's not like rapidly changing in your face.
Exactly.
And yeah, but that's what I mean. And it's such a simple animation, but it's so effective. So like just knowing these like basic little tricks, I think it's just good to know. Like especially if you're just making something for social media, or like you're just illustrating and you just want to add like, I don't know, like just a small little element of something else.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to be a pro animator. It's just like a nice, simple way to quickly do it.
I think so. I've just paused it here because we're exporting. So can you just explain what you're up to here?
let
Exporting
me just
it out,
see it catch up.
think.
Oh yeah, okay. So here I'm exporting it as a PSD file, which is a multi-layered file for Photoshop, because I want to preserve all the layers. So don't export it as a PNG because you want all those layers. You want it to have all that information.
That's a good tip.
And before you export, yeah, exactly. I usually just delete the background layer as well so that it's transparent. But you can delete that when you're in Photoshop anyway, but I usually do it first. So yeah, here I am just exporting it as a Photoshop file, PSD, airdropping it to my laptop, and then we move on to Photoshop.
Move on to Photoshop. And
so yeah, you can create the individual frames for your animation however you like, but I just prefer to use Fresco to draw, because then I can just work with layers and transparency, and it's just a lot easier. But whatever you want to animate, you just bring it into Photoshop now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I personally make the elements.
Yeah, cool.
So we're now opening it in Photoshop. We can probably pause it there just so I talk through what I'm doing, because there's a lot of action just happening. Yeah.
Cool. Paused. Let's roll.
So opening it into Photoshop, we're then using the crop tool just to like size it down. Don't need that much canvas space. And then we're going to window and scrolling down to timeline. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, so the timeline bar will pop up in the bottom, and then you create frame animation, and that's where we're up to now.
Oh, cool. All right.
So so now we're in the timeline, so the section, and basically I'm just adding a new frame using the little button down the bottom. And in each frame, I'm changing which layer is visible. So for the first frame, I'll make the first layer visible and the rest hidden. And the second frame, I'll make the second layer visible and the rest hidden. And then that just means that it will show each frame in sequence. And you can change how long you're going to make each frame go for. I usually go for like 0.5 seconds. And this is a really important part, so we can pause it here. Just because I get asked about it all the time. If you could, please. Thank you.
Yes,
please.
Absolutely. Yes. No, please. I asked you before. I'm like, tell me what to do. You tell me when to go and stop.
I can be very demanding. I'm like, then stop it here.
It gets addictive pushing me around. My wife says so. Yeah, go for it.
So a lot of people ask me like, how do you export your GIFs? And this is such a niche question, but I get it all the time. People are like, how are they not pixelated? Because always I export my GIFs, upload it to giphy.com to use on Instagram stories, everything, and it comes across really pixelated. So my trick is make sure you're exporting it actually at a smaller size, because if you're making like 1,000 pixel by 1,000 pixel GIF and uploading it onto Giphy, they will automatically compress it, and that's where the pixelation kind of happens. So it's actually better to work, like they recommend working with a smaller file size. So I've gone for 600 by 600 pixels, which is usually fine. And then it doesn't compress too much once you put it through to go on social media platforms. So yeah, that is my trick. Just don't make the file too big.
Right.
I like the other trick, yeah, just very important. One other trick is under the option that says matte. I don't know if you can see that. It's just right by transparency. Tick transparency because you don't want a white background or a black background. And then under matte, select none. And that means it won't like add. I don't really know what it means, but just make sure it says none.
Cool.
And the less colors, the better. So you can see all the colors in the color table. And you can kind of delete any colors you don't want to be included. But yeah, I find that the less colors, the better. And then you just save and export it as a GIF. Make sure it says GIF as well.
Definitely want it to be a GIF.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we're going to walk through this again because I'm going to show you a few different ways your GIF on Photoshop. So if you missed that, it's fine. But doing the whole process again and you'll be an expert.
Awesome.
So,
you will be an expert and you can create your own GIFs.
You will be an expert. So I'm just showing you like a few different ways I've animated the same drawing, because it's good to know that you can spend hours on one drawing and then there's lots of different creative ways to actually animate it. So for this one, I just did the rotating flowers, but now I'm going to do a different technique. I'm trying to remember what I was doing here. Oh yeah, I was just grouping those layers so they can just be out of my eyesight. Always nice to keep your layers organized.
Yep, you get bonus points on Adobe Live for labeling your files or organizing your files for sure.
I'm waiting. Oh, okay, cropping it. Oh yeah, okay, so this is just a super basic demonstration, which is you could just have the illustration bouncing up and down, which in this case, I'm just going to do one flower for it rather than all of them. This is kind of strange looking. So I'm just cropping one flower, and as you can see, it's up and down. So basically, I just, on the first frame, made that layer visible, and then on the second frame, I just like shifted it up slightly. Just like super basic, but it can be very effective. And yeah, I often found with making GIFs, because I've made like 100 different GIFs, and I usually found that like the less animated kind of the better. Like you don't really need to go too crazy with the animation on a GIF. Sometimes you want it to be very simple and effective. And so yeah, just making the illustration jump up and down.
Yeah, I think that's key to a lot a lot of people might overdo it a little bit and think that it needs to be very extreme and very obvious, but actually the more subtle the better.
Yeah, exactly, especially for GIFs. I think because you have to think of the context usually, which is that people are just using as stickers on their Instagram story or their Facebook story, and they don't need a full-blown animation that's going crazy. Like it's usually just the idea and a snapshot, like an emoji. So yeah, simple is better. I actually think someone from Giphy told me that, like, just keep it simple with the animation.
That's useful. You got like inside track with Giphy.
Yes.
So have you worked directly?
Experts.
Have you worked directly with Giphy, or do you work with like, because before you're working with Nike that were putting it on the Giphy platform, but yeah, so you do have a relationship with Giphy directly.
Yeah, no, they used to hire me for a few projects. So they actually pay artists to create
Mm,
GIFs for the platform, which is really great because
mm,
artists need all the work they can get. And that was something I was doing anyway. I was already putting GIFs up on the platform. And yeah, they kind of do a few different, like for me, I made a bunch of stickers encouraging people to vote in the last election. So
mm.
yeah, there's like reasons behind them hiring people that gets usually for an interesting project. But yeah, then with Nike, they just asked me to create GIFs for Nike, and it happened to go through the Giphy platform.
Yeah. Um, topically, Giphy was just bought by
Obviously,
Facebook,
yeah,
which we had a chat about just before we
yeah,
went live as well. So your friends at Giphy are rich because they got bought for
yeah.
$400 million dollars, not walking around change.
It's so much money. Like
It's,
it's just unbelievable.
it's incredible,
And
isn't it?
I think it was a female-owned business. I think so. Don't verify me on that, but yeah. When I went into the office, it was the really great company, really great people, very passionate about the future of gifts. So good for them.
Yeah, good for them. Absolutely. And it's a form
Janine
of,
said,
oh, sorry, you go.
I feel embarrassed for every time I've called a GIF a GIF. You can actually call it either. I personally use the word GIF with a hard G, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you call it GIF or GIF, Flynn?
Hard G all the way. And team
Hmm.
hard GIF. Hard GIF. Oh no. Team hard GIF. I'm deleting this stream. Team hard. I did not say that. Hard G for sure. Got me all
Yeah,
twisted around. Oh no.
I know. The more you say GIF and GIF, you just get, yeah, you can't do it.
Yeah. I'm of the
Some
it's
people are very, very stubborn. You seem like you're a strong opinion of this.
yeah, our team, yeah, because it's graphic. You know, the word is graphic, and
I
graphic is with a
always,
hard
yeah.
G. So I'm
And
in
no one
that
can
I'm in
ever,
that logic
what
camp.
is the rest? This is, yeah. I always say that too, but I can't actually remember what the GIF stands for. It's graphic something something. Is that like,
Chat will sort us out. I should know. I know Janine saying you slipped. I know. I know. Someone's gonna kick me off stream. I'm gonna
that
end
said,
up in
Martina,
like a
please don't encourage the GIFs. Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine if you see. I'm not of this like stubborn camp. I'm like I accept everybody. If you're a GIF person or a GIF person, it's fine.
however you identify. It's totally fine. Yeah,
So I
Seth and
said it's
Tom,
not
I'm in the team.
graphic
I am.
interchange format.
That's the camp I'm in as well. Yeah, we're buddies. We're the
Yeah,
same.
yep, Steve knows Janine. See, exactly, Janine. I agree. It's fine. Cheerful gift. Um, back to what I'm doing here.
Yes, we digress.
Oh my gosh. Um, so here I just made a new layer and then I delete a flower for each new layer. I just like duplicate it, delete a flower, duplicate the layer, delete a flower. And then yeah, in the end it makes them all appear in sequence. Um, this is just like
Cool.
another technique which works really, really well and it looks really cute when you do it. So definitely recommend.
What sort of length is ideal for a GIF, do you think? Obviously, it's quite different. There's binary GIFs, right, where it's like one, it's on then off, then on then off.
Yeah.
But then something like this, what is there a time that you're aiming for, or is there a limit?
Yeah, like you want it to kind of just be like 1 second or 2 seconds. You don't
Right.
want it to be like a 5 second GIF. It's just too much.
Mm.
But yeah, usually for each frame, I usually do it around 0.5 seconds, like half a second's usually good. But this one, obviously, it's 0.1 second because I wanted to like quickly fill up the flowers. But yeah, always do it slightly slower than you think, honestly,
Mm. That's good. Yeah, we
because yeah,
got it.
there's nothing worse than a really rapidly animating GIF. I don't know, it's
Right.
like really stressful to watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
When it comes,
again,
yeah.
sorry, I'll just walk through the
Yep.
export
Great.
again. So yeah, I selected GIF, did about 600 pixels, set the map to none, and make sure transparency is ticked again.
Cool.
So yeah, so far I've showed like three different animation techniques. The first one was the flowers rotating, and then the second one was the flowers just jumping up and down. And the third one was the flowers appearing sequentially. And now I think I'm just making the colors change, which is also like a really simple but effective technique. Oh, 5 minutes till Q&A break. Exciting.
Yep, that's right. Don't have quite a long Q&A break, so we might not get to lots of questions, but feel free to ask your questions. We'll get to what we can. Facts from the mod. Johanna has jumped in with our fact. It's graphic interchange format, which I should have remembered.
Graphic interchange format.
Is it pronounced Jafric?
That makes sense.
I'm joking. We did it. We've done it. It's over there. We've done
There's
it.
an actual website. There's a website that says thanks for that link. That link. How to really pronounce GIF. Does it say GIF? Like, amazing.
Amazing stuff.
There's different pronunciations for everything, so
That's true.
it's fine. It's funny because working with Adidas and Nike, I always get kind of flack for like mispronouncing that, because I know like in America you kind of say like Adidas rather than
Right.
Adidas, which in Australia we say Adidas, to be honest. And then if you're in Germany, which is where Adidas is from, it's like Adidas. I don't know. Like, so
Right.
they're both right. It's just like say it with a German accent and then you're technically correct.
That's true. Yeah. And like Nike and Nike, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Like I've always said Nike, but I accept that probably Nike is correct. I'm just like, I don't know why I just happen to work with, like, because you always drop in your client list. You're always being like, oh yeah, I'm an artist. I've worked with this and this and this. And it's always like, why did I work with these companies with the hardest to pronounce names, most controversial pronunciations? So yeah, that was me creating another version, which was just changing the colors. And we're exporting at 600 pixels and selecting transparency, changing the matte to none, and then exporting as a GIF.
Very cool. We're at Q&A, but we've got like 2 minutes to go in this version, so maybe we'll finish that off and then we'll jump into some questions. Does that sound okay?
I don't know what else I'll be. Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Don't know what else I'll be doing in the rest of this video, but yeah. Oh yeah, we can skip this. It's just the same. So I'm cropping it and I'm just showing you one more technique. Cool. Yeah, I made about 6 GIFs from this one illustration, so it's good to you know experiment and yeah.
That's cool to
Make
see
the most
that
out
like
of
you
the one
can
illustration.
get like lots of different versions of like just of the original illustration.
Exactly, and it's good to kind of keep in mind there's lots you can do. Especially if you had an illustration that you worked, or like you hand drew or you worked for hours on, then it's good to know that like, okay, it didn't work to animate it in that way, but you can try different things. Like you can try multiplying it, you can try the colors just changing, you can try just making it go up and down, you can try just duplicating one part of the drawing, and yeah, there's lots of things you can do. Oh, someone said, Tom said, Philip Knight has confirmed that it's Nike, not Nike, apparently. Okay, so I'm correct.
But wasn't it the guy who invented the file type said, oh, it's actually pronounced GIF, like J? Isn't that what started? Isn't that what started the controversy?
Yeah, the guy who invented it was like, no, it's GIF, and everyone's like, well, I don't accept it.
Yeah,
that's wrong. You're wrong. I know you created it, but no.
It's bigger than you now. Cool. It's great to see that animation there.
Yeah. So Joanna asked, how many versions would you generally make before you decide on the one? I mean, sometimes the first version you make is the one. You already like it, but you know, sometimes it takes a couple of different versions. I like to make the most out of whatever whatever I've drawn. Like for me, the fun part is playing with the illustration and animating it and bringing it to other like levels. The actual drawing part isn't the most enjoyable part for me. It's actually like going crazy and creative after. So yeah, I will make plenty of GIFs and make the most of the one illustration.
Oh, that's interesting to hear you say that. This has actually come up twice. And now that I think about it, I can see how people might think so. But did you work on the intro title for Broad City? It totally looks like your style.
Oh my gosh, I did not. I wish I did. I think I found the animator who did, because I was like, I love his work. And I only watched Broad City for the first time like last year. And I was like, this is amazing. But I think we probably both were from like 6 illustrations. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
Similar sources of inspiration.
Oh, cool. We've got time for a couple of questions. So there's a question from Elizabeth before in the chat. When did you discover you liked creating GIFs and stickers? Do you have any artists that inspire you to create? Kind of a double question.
That is a double question. I mean, there's obviously lots of artists who inspire me. I love looking at artists from like the 60s and 70s, and like Memphis era artists, etc. But in terms of GIFs, I don't think I saw someone making GIFs and just thought, yeah, I want to make. It was just, I'm always looking for new ways to create. Like I get bored quickly and I like experimenting. So when I saw that artists were making their own GIFs for Facebook and Instagram, I just thought, well, mine can be, I should do it too. So.
Why not me? And then you just got stuck into it. And did you, like, how did you learn how to do it? Like you're explaining very quickly how to do it, but you know, did you learn from somebody else? Did you just search online, or?
I just searched online. I probably used an Adobe tutorial, to be honest. Yeah, you can just Google how to make a GIF. But obviously these are the techniques that I've kind of developed through making quite a lot of GIFs now. So I know that, you know, 600 pixels works well. I know that transparency works well. There's a few different techniques. And also when I was working with Giphy directly on projects, they gave me a little guide for like best practices for making GIFs, because they're obviously the experts. And yeah, that definitely helped a lot.
Oh, awesome. That's excellent. And I have a question for you actually around traveling, because I know you as someone that travels a lot and puts a lot of travel in. And it's a question we're asking a lot of people at the moment, lots of different artists, is like, how are you going with ISO life? Like, how has that changed and impacted your work when traveling and being out and about is such a part of your lifestyle, and also is so integrated and ingrained into your work?
Yeah. So I've background, I guess. I've been kind of traveling on and off and like based globally for the past like 2 years. So since I went full time with illustration, I was like, great, I can work from anywhere. So I'm going to work from anywhere. And I've just been traveling pretty much ever since. And then this year, I finally decided to settle in a city. For me, settling is like, I'm going to stay somewhere for more than 6 months. So,
wow.
So yeah, I moved to London, and I was just about to sign a lease. Like I was about, you know, I had like a phone contract. I've never had that before. Like I really committed in my eyes.
Like a SIM card, like a permanent SIM card. That's your level of commitment. Wow. Amazing.
Exactly. I got a phone bill, like signed up for a year. Crazy. And then, yeah, I was about to sign a lease, and then this coronavirus stuff happened, and I mean, I come from an Italian family, so family values are very strong, and my dad was just like, please come home, be with family. And I think a lot of people are in that boat, like it just doesn't make sense to be away from family right now. So I came back to Australia, and yeah, it just felt like even when I was trying to slow down and stop traveling, I got like thrown on a plane again and had to come back to Australia. Like, so. But yeah, a lot of my work is inspired by my travels, and I just think that mostly as artists and creatives, we're speaking from personal experience and what influences us. So I try to make sure that I'm like living a very vibrant life, so that I get lots of inspiration all the time, and yeah, keep it fresh all the time.
Oh, cool.
And yeah,
that's
but
great.
right now it's all slowed down.
Yeah, exactly. There's a question actually I think I missed. before that
Oh,
was more on process. So yeah, I know it's my one job. Martina, do you ever draw your line art in Illustrator using the pen tool and shapes, or do you always use a vector brush in Fresco? And if so,
oh
what
no,
are
we
the...
did answer that
Oh, did we
actually.
answer that? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we did.
Okay,
I
cool.
mean, yeah, I basically said I do both, and it's up to you.
Okay, cool. All right, well, why don't we get stuck into part two, just because I want to make sure that we get... I know that... Oh, yeah, by the way, the Rosellas, that's not a sound effect. That's the Rosellas have arrived. Frequent...
It's Rosella time.
yeah, frequent watchers of the show know that the Rosellas like to turn up during Q&A, so they've arrived. They've got lots of questions for you. I can't answer them. But why don't we get stuck into... they're like right above
That's
my
so
head.
cute. Joanna and Steve Prime, it's real. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is what Australian birds sound like.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so why don't we get
Part
stuck
two.
into the next part? I'm going to turn my volume down just a little bit.
I think you turned it right down. I can't hear you at all now.
Yep. I can turn
Okay,
it way
fair
down.
enough.
There they are. There they are.
There it is.
They're so pesky.
So here I'm jumping on and just doing something a little bit different. So I know I showed you how to do a GIF, like a very basic animated GIF. Another way you can use like basic animation skill is just to like add a fresh element to your illustrations or your artworks. So this is kind of something fun that you could do. So I've grabbed like this disposable camera image that I took in my garden, in my parents' garden, and yeah, to draw over it using actually a pixel brush, so not a vector brush, even though I love my vectors. But yeah, this is like a really nice inky marker brush, which I downloaded and installed, because you can do that on Fresco. You can download brushes and install them. And yeah, I really like this one because it kind of imitates the pen that I use all the time, which is like a little Stapler fine liner. So something inky. But yeah, it would be really cool if you had, you know, photos of yourself or like travel photos. This is like a fun thing to do, just something different if you're an illustrator or an artist. Just draw over the top, add some little elements. Oh my god, those birds!
I know.
I can hear them. It's very atmospheric, like it.
It does fit with the like Australian flower garden aesthetic, so maybe I'll just leave it. I'll leave it for
Yeah, yeah, it's part of it. You've recorded it. It's on purpose.
It actually definitely fits in with this stream more than a lot of other streams, so yeah.
So here I'm just like coloring in bits, and then sometimes there's a little space, so I have to fill it in before I can color it. And yeah, I didn't use a vector brush for this one just because I wanted it to look a little bit more hand-drawn. So if that's more your aesthetic, then use the pixel brushes, definitely.
We should mention to those
down
that
to
haven't used
stylistic
Fresco,
choice.
there's like basically the three different brushes will all create a different layer. So you can do vector brushes on a vector layer and pixel, you know, work with pixels on a pixel layer.
That's right. Yeah, because you can't combine vector and raster in the same layer, which is, yeah, it's handy. It's like very intuitive, this app. It just automatically creates a new layer. But yeah, here I'm just drawing different elements. So you'll see on the right hand side, there's like the list of layers, and I duplicated that floral illustration onto a new layer. And now I'm adding another element within that layer. So that's like just my favorite way of animating, is just draw a layer, duplicate it, add another element, keep going.
Cool.
So yeah, for this, I just wanted like the illustration to kind of build on the photograph. It's not going to move or anything. It's just going to slowly add more elements. And I did this in a video as well. Like I made like a cute little home video and just added some quick like illustrations throughout. And it's just like a nice technique. I really love that like effective hand-drawn illustration on video. I'd love to do more of that.
Is that something that you're like pursuing at the moment? Because when we were chatting beforehand, like a lot of people know you for your gifts. That's definitely why you have like a following. And you were talking a little bit about, you mentioned that you get bored. So what are you kind of focusing on, or what kind, like, do you have, like, is there another direction or an area that you're interested in experimenting in at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just kind of, I'm not that passionate about animation, but it's good to have like some basic skills in animation always. So like I did learn After Effects and like I can animate, but it's not really my calling. I think it's always good to go with your gut with these things. So even though I've gotten quite popular off my gifts and most people recognize my work as like a GIF creator, that's definitely not what I want to be defined by. So I'm always pushing into different mediums and finding new ways to express myself and get my ideas across. And yeah, lately I've kind of been exploring a lot more augmented reality and yeah, a lot more like video work. So I did a bit of illustration for a music video recently, which would be really cool to do more of, because it's just nice to work with other creatives. I think as an illustrator, you're kind of usually working alone, so it was really nice to work with like other people for once.
Right. And was that
yeah,
before?
more music videos would be great.
Was that before kind of
that was
the
before
current situation, in the before times,
the pandemic.
in the long ago?
I love all the different ways we remember what's going on during these certain times.
Right.
Before this pandemic, yeah. Not many music videos happening right now. It was funny because my goal this year, actually, with like moving and settling to London, I'm like, it's a big, exciting city. I'm actually in a place that I want to build something. My goal was to do more like in real life events and like installations for people to walk through, and like I wanted to do more like exhibitions and galleries and stuff like that. And then this happened and it was like, oh, actually we're going the other way. We're going to be doing as much online as possible. It's definitely not the year to be starting events and installations that are interactive.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I was working on 3 different events this year, actually.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they're all.
It's just not a good year for doing events.
No, it's definitely not. I think next year, if everything is quote unquote normal, there's going to be an endless list of events. So we should be saving our pennies for all these events, because everyone's going to be so keen to get back out and get amongst it, and people are going to want to put on events that they couldn't do this year as well. So it's going to be whenever it happens, inevitably it'll be there'll be too much to handle.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm definitely the friend who's always trying to get other people to come to events and like come out and go to things, do fun things with me. And I feel like I'm really happy now because all of my friends are so enthusiastic for going to events. And I think everyone's attitude towards going out is very different now that we can't do it. So I'm excited for everyone to be social and wanting to do things.
Yeah. And so back to the work, you've created a different layer for like the flowers behind here as well. Yeah, just to make it separate everything around.
Exactly. So you see actually like on the right in the layers, how every layer sequentially sort of adds more elements. And yeah, I think this is the last element that I'm adding. I didn't want to go too crazy. I didn't want to illustrate the entire thing. It's good to know when to stop sometimes. Like I think all of my work is like less is more. How to make it as minimal as possible but still impactful. So actually I think we had a question.
Go for it.
Oh, and Joanna just jumped in. Oh yeah, so Joanna just jumped in with a link to my virtual art show that I recently put on. So yeah, even though we couldn't do events this year, I still put one on, but virtually.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, did you see that at all? I posted all about it.
I did.
But it was really
I definitely
cool.
did. In fact, I've got it here to show because I thought that we could show it as well. So we'll show that. We'll show that on the stream at the end because we've got a little bit of time for that.
At the end.
Yeah.
Cool. So more on that later. And Elizabeth asked me, I understand you're a firm believer of being positive in both life and your work. Learned anything about the field of positive psychology? Have I learned? I mean, I'm not a psychologist and I definitely haven't studied psychology, but I'm all of my work just expresses who I am and the things that I think and the things that I believe. So it just ended up being positive because I'm a really positive person.
How do you stay so positive, or do you catch yourself, like, because we all get into negative rust and we all have bad days? How do you get yourself out of there, or how do you try to
100%.
stay? How do you stay positive?
I think, I mean, well, I just recently had such a rough patch because one, I had to move back from London when I didn't want to, and recently I had a massive project just get completely cancelled, which, you know, this is not something you can. And the way I kind of got out of it, I mean, you let yourself be sad for a day and then you just try to move on. But I don't know, everyone's different and everyone has their own ways of dealing with things. And my work just kind of shows how I deal with it, which is by creating and by making things which hopefully make other people happy. And that makes me happy. So here I'm just adding some little sparkles, just because I love to add some sparkles wherever I can. And you'll see that I've turned the opacity down on the photograph in the background, and that's just so I can see better when I was drawing. It was quite dark. And now I'm exporting it again as a PSD file, so it keeps all the layers, and renaming it as well.
How good's AirDrop?
And love AirDrop. Honestly, when I was on an Android phone, that was the one thing that I really missed. Like, AirDrop is a blessing.
Well, I think that one is. I think we're at the end of that one.
That one's done, so we're on to the next.
Cool. On to the next one.
Yeah.
Where are we?
So what I've done is I've saved it as a PSD file, and now I'm airdropping it to my laptop to open on Photoshop, which is where we do the animating side.
Straight into Photoshop. Look at that.
And I just love that about Fresco. You can save it as a Photoshop file. Like, that's just like life-changing. So here I'm opening it up. I'm hiding all of the layers. And I've got the timeline window open at the bottom. So yeah, I'm just checking all the layers at this point, and now I'm creating a frame animation. And so for the first frame, I make the first layer visible. The second frame, I make the second layer visible, and so on and so forth. The different elements appearing. Yeah, I think this is like a cute little technique if you're an illustrator or someone who likes to draw, or if you're a photographer. It's just like having fun doing, like, you don't have to be a master, but it's just like something extra you can do. Making the sparkles kind of appear throughout the animation, so that's why sparkles in their own layer. And now I'm playing it, and it's definitely a bit too fast. I'm not sure if I'll notice that, but also good to know that if you have an old laptop like I do, sometimes the playback is slower than what it actually will be. So I've often found that I'll like play it and be like, yep, this is perfect. And then I'll export it and it's actually way too quick and I haven't really realized until it's playing at full speed. So yeah, so just good to keep in mind if you don't have like, I've always got like 1,000 different apps running. So yeah, my computer lags all the time.
So what's the solution to that?
Being very real about that.
Export it when you think it's done, but then make sure you check it.
Make sure you check it. Exactly. Yeah. That's literally it. Just make sure you check the file, because that's what happened with this literal example. I went back and checked and I was like, oh, that was way too fast. Like, yeah, slower is better for GIFs. But for this one, I'm not going to export it as a GIF. I'm going to, oh yeah, so here I've just like copied and pasted some of those frames just to make it loop again. First, I made them all just appear and then disappear, but then I decided I wanted to appear and then slowly disappear rather than, just like flash. So yeah, you can copy the frames, which is easy. People don't even know that there is an animation element on Photoshop. Obviously, you can't do heaps, but it's good for like basic stuff like this. And for this, if you're going to post it on Instagram, don't export it as a GIF. So I've decided to export it as a video. So I think you go to File, Export as Video is what's happening.
So why would you export as a video instead of as a GIF?
Just for this particular artwork, I would have, like, for something like this, I'd probably be posting it on my Instagram feed, or I'd be putting it on, I don't know, something else. So I just wanted it as, that was me going to export it as a GIF. No, go export it as render video.
Right, it's like a muscle memory for you to export as GIF.
Yeah, literally, I think that's exactly what happened. I was just like, oh no, that's not what I'm doing.
I might just pause it here because this might look intimidating to someone's like, whoa, what kind of happened there? So maybe you can take us through. So
I think I just went to File, and then Render Video is one of the options. So go to Render Video, and it'll pop up with this window, and this is just the presets that I use. So like 1280 by 720 is fine, I guess. There's probably better I don't know, I'm not a huge video person, but that's what works for me. And then MP4, and then that's great for Instagram if that's where you want to post it.
Cool.
And then you can export it as a GIF as well if you want to like embed it on your web page or something cute like that. But cool. Depends on what the purpose of your artwork is.
Excellent. All right.
But yeah, again, I don't think everyone knows that you can make videos on Photoshop, let alone, so good little. This is why Photoshop is the supreme application. You can do everything. You can do 3D, you can do animation, you can do videos, you can do it all.
Definitely do a lot.
And then exporting it. Cool, and we're done.
Awesome. I think that's the end there. That's cool. So we actually have time for Q&As. A couple of bits of work of yours I wanted to show as well, particularly the gallery, which we can go through.
Let me just plug my laptop in. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, cool. It's all good. So just chat. So yeah, we've got a little bit more time for Q&A. We don't have to rush out of here straight away. But I thought we would bring up, where are we? Let's go back to here. Something I prepared earlier. It'd be great if you could take us through the virtual art show and give us a bit of an idea.
Yeah. You can click on the virtual art show. So I've just recently been actually updating my portfolio and putting it all here, but
good time to do it.
This is my it's a good time to do it when you're sitting at home. This is my most recent project, so it's a virtual art show. And there was an opening night. It was open for a week. I had an invitation guest list, and then I did it all like a real event, except of course we were remote and sitting at home. And it was hosted on this virtual reality platform called Hubs Mozilla, where you can actually log in, have an avatar, you can walk around and talk to people. And I had a friend who was a DJ make a special mix, so there was actually music in the space. And then I just 3D designed this whole art gallery and invited a bunch of us to have their art shown in my gallery.
That's awesome.
And we had 10 art. If you scroll down, it has the list of artists. So some of them you might recognize. Robin Eisenberg, she's a massive illustrator from LA. Oh, yeah. Grace Michelli, she's in New York. Yeah, a lot of these people work with Adobe, so you'll recognize their names for sure. Yeah, Adam J.K., he's great. So from London, New York, LA, and Sydney were the places that we had artists from. And it was just a bit of fun. I mean, none of us had anything to do, so we all, yeah, banded together and put on this little show. And yeah, I'd really love to do more of this kind of thing. I kind of
Mm.
forgot how fun it is to put together a project with other people. Like I said,
Collaborate
um,
with other
yeah,
artists. Yeah.
exactly. Especially like not even for much of a reason, like it was just because we wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that's so
and yeah,
cool.
I had quite a few articles written about it. Pedestrian wrote about it. Yeah, it's like a big thing, which is really cool. I spoke on radio about it. Yeah, people really jumped on board.
Oh, that's super cool. And so what, like, are you looking to like collaborate with more people? Like, is that something that you want to be doing in the future?
Yeah, I think I'd love to do like another virtual art show. I'd love to do, yeah, more collaborative projects for sure, definitely.
Mm.
I used to curate a lot of like group art shows back when I was just starting out as a creative because, yeah, I was an artist, but I just really liked getting to know other artists. So that's what I was doing. I was just like putting on group art shows, and yeah, I
Mm.
just forgot how fun that was. It's
Yeah,
very easy to just end up working alone if you think.
that's true. Yeah, that's absolutely true. So
Yeah.
we've got some time for questions as well, chat. So if you do have any more questions, please throw them in. I probably rushed through chat a little bit too fast. Sorry, rushed through Q&A in the middle. I blame the Rosellas. They jumped in, totally threw me off. So we got a little bit more time for some Q&A. And we just saw some AR stuff. But Seth was actually asking, I think I missed the question. Can you talk about like working with AR? Like how is it different?
Oh,
Like what did you need to do?
so I first started working with augmented reality sometime last year when Adobe let me play with Aero, which is their augmented reality app. And so I was like one of the first artists that actually got to play with that and like give my feedback. And I think I just showed a lot of enthusiasm because for me, I'm like new media and put my illustrations on. I'm jumping on this. Like,
Let's
what is
roll.
this about?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because a lot of people I was with at the time were like, oh, yeah, but like augmented reality seems like a bit of like a fad. Like, how is this actually going to be part of our everyday life?
Mm.
But I definitely always like, no, I think augmented reality, virtual reality is the future. I think this is like we haven't seen its full potential yet, but I definitely always thought like, no, this is something we should really explore.
Mm.
So yeah, I started playing with Adobe Aero, which is super, super easy to use. And yeah, I just started thinking about how my illustrations could be translated into this medium because I think before with like augmented reality, virtual reality, a lot of the art.
Oh, we may have lost Martina for a second there during Q&A. I'm sure she'll be
Doing
back.
augmented
Okay.
reality. Yeah.
Sorry, we lost you
Okay.
for
Did
one
I cut
second.
out?
Yeah.
No. Um, yeah, no one was really doing augmented reality in my style. Like it was all
Mm.
kind of just like this particular aesthetic to 3D art, which was, yeah, just not my style at all. Like I'm doing bright colors and flowers and hearts and sparkles and
Mm.
positive messages. So I saw that there was kind of something missing in augmented reality that I could fill. So I jumped on and became obsessed with how I could put my illustrations in that sort of scenario.
Mm.
And my first probably successful project was doing Instagram face filters. So you definitely have seen my face filters. I'm not saying that because like arrogant. It's like, no, they've actually been seen like 300 million times. So
Wow.
there's a good chance you've seen my Instagram filters, like a good solid chance.
Mm.
Yeah, there's one which has like falling daisies, and there's one which has like a little flower crown. So again, it's my illustrated flowers, and yeah, they were really, really popular, and
Mm.
a lot of people have seen them.
I mean
And yeah,
face filters are just kind of going off at the moment. Like my whole, especially with like people that are just at home playing around with stuff. You know, it's a very social thing to do when you can't get out and about. I know
exactly.
some of my
Everyone's
single
at
friends
home
who are
face
like at home
chatting.
by themselves. They're just like everything is just filter after filter after filter. They're just going down this rabbit hole of
Yeah,
playing around with them all.
Exactly. I think we like naturally love them because it involves you in
Mm,
the artwork.
yeah.
And that's why I think was always really drawn to augmented reality because there's always some sort of interactive element to my work. Like even with GIFs, like I loved making GIFs because people could use them on their
Mm.
content and like in their stories. Um, and yeah, and like curating gallery shows and doing installations and doing like everything I've ever done, there's some sort of way that an audience can get involved. So augmented reality was like the natural next step, and I love it.
Yeah. There was a question, is there a place or a link we can share or we can have a look at now where we can see some of the AR stuff that you have made?
Yes, yeah, we can jump on. If you go back to that where we were looking at the virtual art
Yep.
show, that page. Yeah, so if you go up to the top, there's a menu item that says VR/AR,
There we are.
and that shows some of my projects. So obviously the
We
virtual
saw
art
that one.
show.
Should we check this?
Yeah,
You tell
and
me.
yeah, you can check this one. Yeah, the
All right.
Daisy AR filter. So yeah, that one's had a
Whoa.
lot of views. Yeah. So like for perspective, I think it was something like 20,000 people must use it every day or something to get to that many,
Wow.
which is just crazy. And yeah, that's how it works. It's just like very simple. And I think with AR filters, I mean, with all my work, it's about like how simple can I make this but still effective.
Mm.
And this is really simple. It's just one element floating off. I
So
could
it's
have
just a single
done a
flower, the
thousand
same
more
flower.
things. Yeah, it's just the one flower. Yeah,
Mm.
super simple. Um, and I think whenever you're learning like a new medium or a new program, learn so much that you can do a million things, but you don't have to. Like I have the skills to do a lot more elaborate filters, but
Right.
I like scaling it back and just being like, no, let's just do this one thing because often that's enough. Like you could have an interactive element and then have sounds and then have it as a color filter and then have all these different things. But
Mm.
my most popular filter is the most simple one, which is just like some flowers on your head.
Right.
So
Well,
yeah,
that's.
this is a positivity filter.
Mm.
So it gives you a positive reminder for the day. And these are just like no, sorry, six phrases that I use a lot in my work. So I've actually got a jewelry line of necklaces which have the same phrases engraved on the back.
Awesome.
And yeah, and so like you can see, like that one's more complex. So it's not being used as much. Like it's obviously still been really popular, but the most popular ones are the most simple filters.
Yeah, it's really interesting,
This,
and it comes back to what you were saying before, like about it being
mm,
as simple and as subtle as possible.
yeah, exactly. This is an artwork that I made just when that was probably like my first like experiment that I did.
Cool.
So this is on a rooftop in Italy where I was living for a couple of weeks. My family's hometown in southern Italy, and yeah, that was where I sat and sketched every day. And so I made this little augmented reality artwork where the sketches literally like came out of the sketchbook.
Let's see that again.
Yeah, and it's subtle, but you can tell that they're actually on different layers. So
Yeah, there's almost like a
it's not
parallax
just one
thing
flat.
happening there, like with the distance.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, super
What
cool.
I found really difficult with AR is that all the existing examples, because it's such a new medium,
Mm.
all the existing examples are like 3D skulls and like just things that are not my style and like like just really just like cyborg things and yeah just
Mm.
so it was really hard because I was like, okay, there's this new medium to play with, but how my style apply to it without veering too much. So you've got to be really strong in your taste when
Mm.
you're going into a new medium,
And what a
because
good
if you have a strong
opportunity, like as well, like it's a good opportunity if it's like not your style in that medium to kind of come in and carve your section of the medium out.
exactly. I hadn't seen anyone doing augmented reality in that style because that wasn't the style that was popular yet. But still, like, I'm using such a new medium, but people can tell very obviously that it's like Martina Martian work because
Mm.
I haven't veered from my actual style. It's just in a new medium. And whether I'm doing installations, whether I'm doing gifs, whether I'm doing augmented reality, whatever the platform, I think my style stays consistent.
What advice would you give people to experimenting in new mediums like AR or VR or even getting into animation if they're not traditionally in that? Like what advice would you give people?
Just definitely go for it. I think we're too like don't ever define yourself by a medium. I think
Mm,
that's a mistake. That's holding you back from the start. So just always remember that your work should be defined by your ideas and your style, not by a medium. Don't be
mm.
afraid of trying something new.
That's great advice. I really like it. Want to make sure I get to some of these questions.
Oh yeah,
Elizabeth was asking,
please jump
do you
on.
recommend having a paid custom domain site at the same time as a free site, like your Adobe Portfolio website?
Yeah, I definitely do. For me, my custom domain site, martinamartian.com, is like my store, and that's where I sort of sell things and sell my jewelry line and all that. So, whereas that free site, the martinamartian.myportfolio.com, that's purely just for clients to see my portfolio, and that's tied to my Behance. So it's super easy to update. And yeah, it's just like a nice sort of separate spot to just put all my projects, but it's
Mm.
definitely good to have a custom domain. Very professional. Do that.
Yeah, awesome. There's also a question, what medium are you looking to try out next? Adobe Dimension?
Yeah, probably Adobe Dimension. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how my work will look 3D and still be my work because it's so like 2D and like hand drawn kind of aesthetic. So yeah,
Mm.
looking into it, we'll figure it out.
Oh, super cool. Where's the next location like that you're going to want to travel to the moment that you can?
I just want to go back to London.
Just want to
Like
go
I
back to
just
London.
started to get settled. Yeah, that's all. That's all. I think I was very good and traveled a lot the last 2 years, so I'm not feeling like I'm missing out too much by not traveling now. But I was ready to settle in a new city, so I'd like to go back and
There
finish
we
doing
go.
that.
Well, I mean, you're committed now because you have the SIM card. So
Exactly. The SIM card.
it's a
I'm paying for
serious
the SIM card, so I have to go back.
serious
It's a serious
relationship with the telco.
commitment. Exactly.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Well,
Are there any more
um,
questions to jump on? Are we good?
I think we're good. We've covered a lot. We've done a lot today.
Great.
So I'm just going to bring up just so everyone can see kind of the URL. Maybe Johanna, you can actually. I should be able to share it. Just so people could. There was a lot of questions about the VR AR. Maybe we need to have you back on to do some
Maybe
VR
we
AR
do.
stuff. I think because there was a lot of interest
I could,
in
I,
this.
yeah. Maybe we should do an Aero tutorial or something.
That would
We'll
be
figure it
cool.
out.
Do you guys want that
That'd be
chat?
great.
I think that'd be really great. Um,
Yeah.
excellent
Didn't
for
even
us.
think about that, but we should definitely do that.
There we go. Next time, something for
Hmm.
us to do. So check it out at martinamartian.myportfolio.com. And then I think we have some of these links as well, so Johanna can share them down here, and we'll leave them in the comments on YouTube as well, like down the bottom. And then of course follow Martina on Instagram, Martina Martian, anagram. Check that out. So Tom's asking, is there a stream schedule? Yeah, there should be, Tom, but
Okay, I'm
I
back.
actually didn't throw it in today, so I'll verbally tell you what's happening the rest of this week. So tomorrow we are back. Tomorrow we have Joy Lee on. So Joy Lee
Oh, I
will be
love
here.
Joy. Definitely tune in for that.
Yep, exactly. So Joy. So Joy Lee is going to be on. She's amazing, graphic designer, branding designer. Yeah, she'll be on tomorrow morning with us. And then we have the amazing Bill Hope on as well. So those that are interested in illustration. And in fact, I believe Bill is going to also be throwing a little bit of animation and sound design, which he's been experimenting with lately in there. So for those interested in what Martina was doing with Photoshop and GIFs and animation, we're going to be touching on some of that as well. It looks like it's a yes for AR. So I think we need to chat
Okay,
about having you back on and
definitely.
showing the AR process and how you get your artwork to look so wonderful. Yeah, that will be super awesome. Yeah. So thank you so much,
Great.
Martina.
Thanks so much for having me. Looking
And
forward to jumping on again.
yeah, it's going to be awesome. And thank you, chat. Thank you for the great questions. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will be here tomorrow. We have a big day, big schedule tomorrow. So we've got 4 hours of content. So we hope to see you then. And we'll see you next time. Bye.